Hey, speaking of pigskin, Donald Trump, in his ongoing effort to distract us from the fact that he doesn't want Melania to see the Epstein files, went after Rosie O'Donnell again. He's been threatening to revoke Rosie O'Donnell's American citizenship, which, like peeing standing up, he cannot do.
I love that because Trump is always
a president that actually, had the worst tribulations our country has ever faced and brought us together. Now, the opposite is happening right now. We have a president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution.
Comedy virtually cries out from the spectacle of Donald Trump's leadership. As Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel aim, it turns into a demolition derby of ego, ineptitude, and ridiculousness rather than a roast. Consider a man who claims to be creating history, but instead creates what appears to be bloopers, film that has been accidentally mixed together. There was no commander for the nation. It features a spoof actor who isn't even aware that he is trying out for a part that no one is interested in.
He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now.
With modern times, he criticized capitalism without a conscience. And that's what we have now. We have capitalism without a conscience. He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal, dehumanizing industrial age. He took on the American right wing of his day, its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power.
Please remember to hit the bell icon and subscribe to the channel if you like this video. Kimmel attacks Trump's image right away, tearing it apart like a magician and exposing all of its cheesy tactics. As though volume were an academic credential, he portrays him as a man who thinks that shouting louder makes one smarter. Once a place of respect, the Oval Office has been reduced to a comedy club where the main act consistently fails, yet nevertheless manages to get an encore. By making Trump's self-promotion the joke itself, Kimmel mocks this shift. Because the joke is obvious when the head of the free world approaches government like a talent show.
And before I share this, I'd like to remind you, this is a post from the President of the United States. He wrote, as previously mentioned, we are giving serious thought to taking away Rosie's citizenship. She is not a great American and is, in my opinion, incapable of being so. Here's the thing, whenever he's spitting out, he goes back to Rosie. That's his safe space. He zeroes out.
Carrey exaggerates Trump in a cartoon that is so hideous that it feels painfully accurate, bringing his trademark surreal turmoil. Because no producer would think someone could genuinely live that absurd. He depicts the president as a living parody of excess who would never make it past the first draft of a comedy movie. But here he is, driving the nation like a man who thinks his golf cart can win the Independent 500. Carr's brilliance is in magnifying Trump's shortcomings to the point where they resemble a funhouse mirror that nevertheless manages to capture reality.
He's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman.
Absolutely.
And he's, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer. So who knows what the hell is wrong with us?
But as I watched,
unfortunately, we're in the back seat, right?
Right.
We're not in control.
As I watched this week, what I kept thinking was, it all comes down to this case of narcissistic personality disorder. We've all talked about it since he's been on the public scene.
Kimmel's parody of Trump's preoccupation with spectacle deepens the roast. He prepares crises rather than resolve them. He reframes issues as plot twists rather than solving them. Under his leadership, the U.S. is more like an endless reality show with cliffhangers and plot holes so big they could eat up entire budgets than a democracy. The audience laughs and cringes in equal measure as Kimmel exposes the ridiculousness of this leadership style, in which the president puts airtime above responses.
Calling her fat is what makes him comfortable. Meanwhile, she's about half his weight now. In fact, this photo he posted... She posted the photo. This photo he posted looks really more like him than her. Rosie O'Donnell. How can someone so old be so childish? It's Benjamin can't button his pants.
By comparing Trump's leadership to a circus ringmaster who is unable to control the animals but still demands praise for the mayhem, Carrey transforms that image into performance art. There is a stampede of elephants. Clowns are being devoured by lions. However, he is waving his arms as if this had always been the idea. Carrey uses a frenzied flair to convey the irony. A presidency that is so erratic that it seems like a botched improvisation. Everyone else, meanwhile, is confined to the skit and is unable to exit the stage.
But we see it in real time. Somebody really unraveling, spiraling toward madness.
So I'm an asshole? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. We're talking
You're not talking. You're talking.
There was a tape
Sorry.
of him talking to Bob Woodward, right? We heard that this week. At the end of it, he gets a little frustrated and he says, well, accurate is that nobody's ever done a better job than I'm doing as president. He says, how can you...
Job of what? Job of what? Demolition Man?
Right.
Kimmel ridicules how reality works and attacks Trump's relationship with it. Bends when he's around. The facts are annoyances, not guardrails. Kimmel imagines him as a young child who scrawls on his report card, insisting he is straight as, and then chastises anyone who dares to point out the smudges. Under Trump, government turns into a mockery of responsibility, with errors disappearing not because they are corrected, but rather because he claims credit for them. The number of people who nod in agreement, as though the smudges weren't noticeable, adds to the laughter in addition to the boldness. Never one to back down from hyperbole, Carrey takes this concept a step further by picturing Trump's presidency as a bizarre museum display. There is a wing of incomplete projects and a gold-plated room of excuses, protected by cardboard cutouts and a mirror hall where every reflection, no matter how warped, exudes creativity. Kimmel likens it to a kid trampling in a sandbox, thinking he's creating an empire, while in reality, he's just destroying other people's days. The image is too realistic for the comedy to work. A leader who makes such an effort to appear strong that every action reveals his weakness.
They kicked the can in the hopes that, I don't know, we'd be hit by a tidal wave or something, it would wash away, but it didn't wash away. So they tried another dumb idea. Again, this time the House Oversight Committee released some of the Epstein files, around 33,000 pages of the Epstein files, the vast majority of which had already been released. You would think that of all the cases, the one for Jeffrey Epstein would get a full release, but no.
Carrey uses his signature craziness to paint Trump as a out-of-control performance. Imagine a stand-up comedian blowing it so horribly that he begins abusing the crowd before asking for a standing ovation. That sums up the Trump administration in a single action. Silence is interpreted as treachery, disorder as strategy, and blunders as victories. Carrey thrives on this bizarre exaggeration, revealing the bizarre equipment that keeps the performance going. Kimmel criticizes Trump's response to crises, pointing out that he views them more as personal PR problems than as pressing national issues. For instance, during a pandemic, the focus shifted from saving lives to safeguarding his image, making press junkets out of daily briefings. By making fun of the notion that leadership is more about avoiding responsibility than offering answers, Kimmel cuts to the core of this nonsense. Carr's ability to combine humor and scathing criticism guarantees that the roast goes deep, revealing how fatal ineptitude can become when encased in pride and denial.
We are fighting those same evils today. In America, in the United Kingdom, across the globe. And we need to be clear, shamelessness is not and will never be a superpower. It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. Almost half of America at this moment believes there is a sinister deep state diabolically plotting to what? Give them health care?
Kimmel also highlights Trump's fixation on audience sizes, applause and ratings, making fun of the way he views politics as a popularity battle. Convinced that approval ratings are trophies, he sees Trump sitting in the Oval Office looking at the scoreboard like a desperate game show competitor. The ridiculousness is astounding. Desperate to gain favor, the head of the free world was reduced to a guy reciting his own words. Kimmel's mockery succeeds because it exposes the obsession's true narrow-mindedness. Carrey turns this preoccupation into a slapstick-style scene. Trump is a performer who demands that every statement be followed by a bow, awaiting applause that never materializes. To break the ice, he imagines the Oval Office outfitted with a laughing track. Carrey's surrealism turns the need for approval into a never-ending pitfall of desperation, transforming insecurity into comedy gold. Together, their attack destroys the myth as well as the man, leaving only the remnants of an egotistical act.
Now, there was some new information in the documents. Contrary to what Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi said, there was video of that missing minute of security footage shot outside Epstein's cell. That footage somehow this footage got re-edited more times than the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. And it's a big problem for Trump because the push to release the names isn't just coming from the left. This is a bipartisan effort. It's coming from inside the House.
Kimmel goes on to emphasize how Trump centered politics on his own cult of personality. His antics were accommodated by bending or breaking laws, institutions, and customs. Kimmel makes fun of the ridiculousness of a president who acts like a participant on a reality show, certain that he is exempt from rules. The tragedy is highlighted by the laughter, which makes it incisive. In his never-ending show, a system intended to safeguard democracy was reduced to background scenery. Carrey adds even more hyperbole when she portrays Trump as a cartoon villain who inadvertently enters the workplace and chooses to remain because the seats are cozy. Rather than being recalled, he is going to be regarded as a cautionary tale and a blooper reel of government that future generations will laugh at incredulously because he was a transformative character. Kimmel makes sure the mockery adheres like adhesive by encasing it in scathing comedy.
Trump as an artist. This isn't exactly a Norman Rockwell. No one is hanging this in a museum. Their other proof he didn't do it is the signature. They say it doesn't look like his signature. It sure does to me. Especially when you compare it to other Trump signatures from that era. They're almost exactly the same. They all end with a long D, which I can only assume is Trump overcompensating for a small D.
With incredible grace, Carrey ends the roast by envisioning a time when Trump's follies take up entire museum wings. Wax figurines that crumble under close inspection, Twitter archives shown like old scrolls, and animatronic outbursts. It's horribly accurate, amusing, and ugly. His deconstruction of Trump's narrative immortalizes the ridiculousness rather than merely making fun of it. Carr's depiction of these hideous historical corridors serves as a warning that Trump has successfully positioned disorder as culture. Every display would act as a warning sign for power without substance and ambition without idea. He makes fun of Trump as president, but that's not all. He eliminates all sense of gravity and presents him as a man so in need of fame that he would sooner be notorious than forgotten. Even though the curtain should have fallen long ago, Kimmel's roast transforms the Oval Office into a stage where the performance never stops.
The other thing, this book is 22 years old. Who would have been faking Donald Trump's signature in a private birthday book in January of 2003? The Apprentice wasn't even on the air yet. This would require an extraordinary amount of planning. Caroline Leavitt, his press secretary, the woman who keeps insisting Trump didn't draw this or sign this in 2003, she was 5 years old. She was too young even for Jeffrey Epstein in 2003.
Both of them, one with surrealism and the other with sarcasm, demolish everything of Trump's meticulously crafted narrative. The audience is forced to view Kimmel's president as a performance piece that no one requested, rather than as a time of governing by his gallery of follies. By pointing out how silly it appears when someone is confused while yelling for power and publicity for leadership, Carrey ensures that the humor pierces deeper. It is impossible to avoid the effects of their demolition. They go beyond simply criticizing Trump's legacy. They tear it apart until nothing that can be identified remains. The man who desired to be seen as imposing suddenly appears minuscule, engulfed by his own fears and exaggerated displays. The ridiculousness is immortalized by Carr's weird interpretation. In the communal psyche, what was formerly portrayed as brilliance is now reframed as a blooper reel that plays repeatedly.
Had the misfortune to visit in the middle of Hurricane Epstein. As you probably know, Republicans forced an early recess over the summer to avoid having to vote on whether to release the Epstein files, which many of them do not want to do because it would upset Orange Julius Caesar bigly. So
it becomes evident that Trump's narrative is not able to withstand satire because doesn't overstate. All it does is hold up a mirror. Kimmel's jokes and bizarre imagery are a perfect reflection of Trump's legacy. A mockery of accountability, a parody of governance, and a caricature of authority. Their roast makes sure that this tradition doesn't simply disappear. It remains kept forever as a ridiculousness that is too big to ignore. Kimmel and Carrey work together to demolish everything so completely that nothing is left standing. With mockery scathing enough to sting and wit daring enough to endure, the fiction of might, the delusion of competence, and the aura of greatness are all destroyed. In American history, his administration is less of a chapter, history than a joke that unintentionally went on for years. The fact that he tried isn't the true tragedy. The nation was forced to see the performance. And the comedians who turned the suffering into amusement will be the only ones receiving applause when the curtain finally comes down.